If you've ever walked outside and found garbage in your yard that you know didn't come from you, the feeling hits fast. Confusion turns into anger and then into something heavier, because trash doesn't end up in someone else's yard by accident, at least not repeatedly. Psychologically, this behavior isn't about laziness or forgetfulness. It's about displacement. When someone throws garbage into your space, they're offloading more than waste. They're dumping responsibility, frustration, and sometimes resentment into a place that doesn't belong to them, but feels safe enough to violate. One of the darkest motivations behind this behavior is passive aggression. Some people don't confront problems directly. Instead, they express hostility in quiet, deniable ways. Garbage becomes a message that says, "I don't respect this space," without ever having to say it out loud. And the most unsettling part is that this can happen even when you've done absolutely nothing to them. In fact, sometimes that's exactly why it happens. When someone feels inferior, overlooked, or threatened by your property, your peace, or simply your existence, they look for small ways to regain power. And few things feel more violating than someone polluting what you take care of. There's also jealousy at play more often than people want to admit. A cleaner yard, a better maintained home, or even the perception that you're doing well can quietly trigger resentment. Instead of processing those feelings internally, some people externalize them. Trash becomes symbolic. It's not about the garbage, it's about dragging something clean down to their level. And because it's subtle, they convince themselves it's harmless. After all, it's just trash. But psychologically, it's a boundary violation meant to go unnoticed or unchallenged. What makes this behavior feel sinister is the repetition. The first time, you give the benefit of the doubt. The second time, you question your sanity. By the third time, your brain stops asking why and starts asking, what kind of person does this? That's when darker thoughts creep in. You imagine catching them in the act. You picture dramatic confrontations. You fantasize about returning the garbage, strategically, symbolically, with just enough flair to make a point. Nothing illegal, nothing violent, just deeply satisfying. The kind of moment that lives rent-free in your head. And yet, as satisfying as those fantasies are, they rarely solve the problem. Psychologically, the most effective response is the least dramatic one. Clear boundaries shift the behavior from safe and anonymous to noticed and risky. A calm confrontation, documentation, or visible deterrent forces the other person's brain to reassess the cost. When garbage dumping stops being invisible, it stops being convenient. Most people don't want conflict. They want to get away with things quietly. So the real tension isn't between neighbors. It's between how we want to handle the situation and how we should. We want justice with a cinematic edge. We should choose clarity with receipts. Because when someone throws garbage in your yard, they're testing more than your patience. They're testing whether your boundaries are real. And once that answer becomes clear, the behavior almost always does too. If this has happened to you, you're not imagining the disrespect, and you're not alone. So be honest, how would you want to handle it? And how did you actually handle it? Drop your thoughts in the comments.